Okay. Okay. Some kind of food faux pas.
Okay, so do you want to be seen?
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. We'll get started in just a minute. We're letting a few more people join, but I'll just remind you to mute yourselves. Otherwise, we'll be hearing whatever you're talking about. So if you're laughing at how we present this, we'll hear that as well. But we'll get started in just a few minutes.
That work?
Okay, just one more reminder. If you'll make sure that you mute yourself on the Zoom call, it's at the bottom left-hand corner. It looks like a microphone. If you'll mute yourself, that way we won't get an echo during the presentation. We'll be answering questions that you may have throughout the presentation. We will also be answering questions that you may have in chat. So just make sure that you're muted, and we'll begin the presentation in just a moment. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, let me begin by saying, on behalf of USA Cycling, I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you for volunteering to helping support this event. We truly could not put this event on without your help. You are critical to the success of this event, and it's also critical that we want you to have a good time in supporting this event. We'll be going through a couple of slides, and if you would either text your question in the chat. That will allow us to read from it. We will read the question so that everybody hears it and answer questions as we go through. My name is Will Smith. I'm the technical director for the race. My right-hand man, but at the moment, my left-hand man is Tim Tidwell. He's our volunteer coordinator. Rico Patton, who refuses to get on camera for some reason, is here to my right. And they've been working diligently on making sure your volunteer experience is both very, very helpful to the race, but also very positive for you individually. Next slide. There we go. So this is what we're going to go through. We're going to go through the behind the scenes, how the how the race works. Racing 101, the week schedule, traffic management, and how to manage the race itself, and then course marshal responsibilities.
Keep yours turned up because it's synced. So just, I'll turn mine down and turn yours up.
Okay, you turn yours up and I'll turn mine down. Next slide. So again, this is the Professional Road National Championship for the United States. USA Cycling is they are the governing body for all U.S. cycling. They operate under the UCI, which is the international governing body. I work for Mela Sports. We are the production company that has been hired to produce this event. Tim Brady, who's sitting here, is the head of our local organizing committee. This will have both men and women athletes. They have to be U.S. nationality on their racing license. And this year, in addition to the Pro National Championship, is our UCI Juniors, which are 17, 18-year-old up-and-coming elite athletes. I would expect that we will have a significant amount of spectatorship descend on Charleston throughout the week. In addition to all of the volunteers that we will have several hundred staff that will be on site helping to support this event. We will have a ton of vehicles, a ton of medical staff, and a ton of team staff. Next slide.
Casey.
Mhm.
Oh, there we go. It is U.S. only. Men and women, pro, experienced competitors. We are having 3 disciplines that comprise the totality of the Pro National Championship. The first is the time trial, and it is exactly what the name implies. It is a timed competition where each individual athlete rides the course and the lowest time wins. It is a lonely and painful race that only true racers can really appreciate how much pain these athletes are going through. They're running at basically 95, 98% of capacity for 38, 40 minutes straight. It's a very, very difficult race. All alone, no teammates, nobody to boost your spirits. The criterium is a race that is competed on a very short course. In the case of here, it's a 1-mile circuit, and it is a timed race. So 70, 80, 90 minutes, depending on categories. And again, it is what I like to call the Bristol short track of cycle racing. It is fast and furious, elbow to elbow racing with a very, very large field. In fact, for our biggest field is almost 100 riders on that 1-mile circuit. So it'll be a very challenging race. And then for the road race, it is a lengthy endurance race that'll be competed on a 13.1 mile circuit. And depending on each category, they'll race a number of laps of that to comprise the totality of their race length. Next slide.
Don't let him do that, Stacy. You can hit him if you want.
So again, here's our race schedule, and it starts with the individual time trials on Tuesday afternoon, where the juniors will line up and they will take a single lap of it's a 10.4 mile circuit on Canal Boulevard. They will do one single lap of that and they will be done. We'll start out with our women juniors at 1 p.m. and following that will be men juniors. And these are, again, 17 and 18-year-old up and coming high quality athletes. We will follow that with an award ceremony at Haddad Park. And then on Wednesday, we will have the U23 and elite fields with the women starting the day off at 8 a.m. with the women elite following that. After they are concluded, we'll do a brief award ceremony, and then we will start the men U23, that's under 23 years old, in their race age. So that is computed at the end of this year. They have to be under 23-year-old as of December 31 of 2024. And then we'll follow up the day with the elite men after that. And this year is a little unique. The time trial is a selection for the Paris Olympics. So there are a couple of spots remaining available for selection for representing the U.S. in Paris this summer at the Olympics. So the winner of, I think the winner and probably second place in the women's field is up for grabs. So a number of athletes are coming here for that specific purpose of being selected for the team going to Paris later on this year. On Thursday, we will be racing under the lights in downtown on our criterium, and racing starts at 6:30 p.m. on both Thursday and Friday night. We will finish racing at 10 p.m. So it's going to be a really interesting event, racing downtown at night through the business districts, fast and furious. It'll be quite a spectacle to see and to be involved in. It's a really important race for our volunteers, as we really rely on you all to help people cross the course, be able to get around town, and to be able to safely navigate this course. It's going to take these athletes about, at fastest, probably about 2 minutes and 5 seconds to go that mile distance. So it's a very hectic night for all of us. Again, we will have 3 races on Thursday night, where we will start with women juniors. We'll have men junior and men U23. And then on Friday night, we will have the women U23 and elite fields, which are combined. And then we'll have the men's elite field alone on that night. Again, racing will conclude about 10 p.m. and we'll have award ceremonies at Haddad Park following all of those. Next slide. For the weekend, we switched from downtown to encompassing a much larger area of Charleston. We'll have the road racing starting at 7 a.m. with the U23 men, and they're going to be using the pro course, and they'll be racing for 148K of that, so 7 laps of a 13.1 mile circuit. They'll be done by approximately 11 o'clock, 11:30. And then we will have awards for them, and we will start the men juniors at noon, and they will be doing the junior course, which I'll show you. It's a reduced course in length, but they'll still be doing 87K or 6 laps of the shorter course, followed by the women juniors, and they'll do 72 kilometers of the course. On Sunday, it is elite racing all day. U23 and elite women start the day at 8 a.m. and they'll do 6 laps of the pro course for 127K, and then followed by the elite men, and they will do 10 laps for 212K. I saw what was that question about? Are all the racers competing in all 3 events? That is a great question, Scott. Not all are competing in each event. So each event stands on its own. So if you win the time trial as the U23 woman, then you are the national champion for women U23, and you receive a jersey for that. It's a standalone competition for all 3 of those, and within each category.
Specialist kind of for some of these.
Exactly. Yeah. Tim points out. So there are people that have very specific specializations in their riding skill. They may be a time trial specialist, meaning that that's what they focus on year round. and they may come here for the sole purpose of winning or being selected to the Paris team, and they may not compete the rest of the week. Others will compete in every single race that they can get their hands on. All right, next slide. So the time trial looks really easy. Like, it's flat, it's straight. You do 2 turns and you're done. And it's intentionally designed this way. So this is designed to mimic the Paris time trial. Paris time trial has almost the same elevation gain, and it is basically a straight and flat course for Paris. So we wanted to have a apples to apples comparison with our athletes on a similar course that Paris will be using this summer. Having said that, there's nothing easy about the time trial. These athletes are given, again, they're going to be at 97, 98%. They will have audio exclusion, and in some cases visual exclusion at the very end, where they have a difficult time comprehending exactly how hard they and how deeply they've gone. The juniors, like I said, will do this 1 single lap. The elites and the U23 will complete 2 laps for basically 21 miles. Next slide. Criterium, it's basically an L, it's a 6-point criterium. But for those of you that know Charleston well, you know these streets, there is a degree of difficulty that is caused by this. So you've got wide streets like Canal Boulevard is wide. You've got Court Street, which we're only using half of Court Street. So we go from wide to narrow. Then we go from a narrow street onto Lee, which is a nice wide street, onto Summers and Quarry, which are wide, to Hale Street, which is nice and narrow. So there are technical difficulties that are in addition to the standard 6-corner criterion. So positioning, being at the front of the field definitely helps. So it is a very challenging course, and especially when you look at athletes that are of this caliber. Are there going to be any precautions for the gap? Yes, there is. We've looked at that, and we will be reviewing that through the weekend to make sure that we have that mitigated as needed. And actually, I can tell you, every inch of the course, every inch of the city we're reviewing. First thing I did when I got here today is went through and reviewed all the conditions of all the roads, making sure that the city is aware of those places where we need to repair or make pothole repairs. So the course will be fully prepped, and it'll be reviewed throughout the race. One of the things that y'all are very much aware of, particularly those of you who ride, you may ride a road a particular day, and the next day you ride it, it's a totally different road. Roads change, so we have what we call our chief course marshal, who has equipment and material. They'll be circulating the race outside of the race caravan, making sure that the course stays safe for athletes. Next slide. The road race, and we'll start with junior road race. It is just on the north side of the river, and we're using Kanawha as sort of the backbone. We'll travel Kanawha out to Wirtz, take Wirtz up to Oak Ridge down to Greenbrier back to Kanawha to Brooks to Quarrier to Summers to Lee to Court, Court to Virginia to Treslow, and then back on to Kanawha for a single lap. And again, depending on their category, they'll race multiple laps of this. And for all of the locals, y'all know the challenge Avenue is going to give them. That's followed by all the turns.
You broke up.
Oh, low network bandwidth. Can you hear me? All right. Sorry about that. I think we're stressing the internet. We broke the internet. So again, going back to the road race, for those of you that live nearby to Charleston, you know how difficult Wirtz is. For the elites and the U-23, we will be adding the difficulty of Bridge Road and Loudon Heights. So we go to a extended, lengthy climb on Bridge, and then a very technical descent down Loudon Heights Road, followed by the long flat stretches along Canal, and then up Wirtz Avenue to Oak Ridge, back to Greenbrier, and then back downtown for that loop, completing a 13.1 mile circuit. Next screen. So again, traffic management, I like to describe this as a multi-layered approach. And a part of that multi-layered approach are all of our volunteer course marshals. The important thing that I want you to remember throughout all of this, never put yourself in a dangerous position. The safety of the race does not depend solely on you. You're there as an added layer of security and protection for the race. We have, again, multiple layers. Charleston PD is the lead agency. They will be creating, particularly for the road race, the caravan bubble, if you will, the rolling enclosure in which we operate. We have trained professionals coming in on motorcycles that will provide additional safety measures in the race caravan, so that by the time the race actually hits a particular area, there have been multiple opportunities for us to address the hazard that may be in place. We want to make sure that for places that we're crossing traffic, that it's done so safely, and that's going to be done under the direction of Charleston PD. Things that you should be aware of in your specific location are listen for the startup of a car or approaching vehicles, particularly for parking lots and driveways. That's a lot of the places that we'll ask you to be posted up. Again, you are a ambassador for the race. And again, it's not something that we're depending 100% on you to make sure the race is safe. So don't put yourself in a position where you could be injured. We can be in the right, and we have the right of way, but the vehicle and you, they have the right of weight. Don't put yourself in between yourself and a vehicle. Next slide. Yep. So this is an example. This is actually not a complete example of all the resources that are going to be going down the road, but it gives you an idea of the amount of equipment and resources that will be available on the road. There are multiple police units in the front and multiple police units in the rear of the caravan, what we call the race caravan. We have a traveling doctor that is in the race for the sole purpose of providing support to the athletes, ambulances, team cars, neutral support, as well as all of the officials and other resources that are required to make sure that the race is run under regulation and done so safely. Next slide. So again, being a volunteer, for most of the spectators, you are going to be the only person from the race that they encounter. And of course, they expect you to know everything under the sun. Who was that? Who's in the win? How fast are they going? Where are they going next after this? So how you interact, it will really determine how Charleston is viewed by a lot of fans. So just make sure that you're not, you can represent the race itself and what it means to Charleston. You are a public relations ambassador, and your most valuable asset is for everybody is your common sense. Don't be afraid to ask anyone for help, whether it's Tim or Rico or our chief course marshal. They'll be traveling the course throughout the day, and I'll give you an interesting tip on, particularly for road race. When you're at a position, and if you have a question and the chief course marshal is coming towards you, don't raise your hands like this, because everybody is going to be cheering, and it's impossible for us to figure out if you have a question or not. This looks idiotic, but I'm going to demonstrate it anyway. If you put your hand on your head like I'm a little teapot, short and stout, they will know that, hey, come in. You don't have to do the spout part. But if you do
But you
this,
can.
you pat your head, the chief course marshal will know you have a question. And it's the only thing that we could come up with when we're driving down the road and everybody has their hands up and clapping and cheering and leaning out. If you see somebody with the teapot sign, it does work.
Yeah, and I would just add that what Will is describing is really to get the attention of the chief course marshal, who will be in a car or a truck in the caravan with the road race, but you may not be able to pick out their vehicle specifically because there's a lot of vehicles in that caravan. So
No,
you want to make yourself stand out so they can see you and know that you need some kind of assistance, and they're there to help the volunteers. That's what their job is.
Yeah, so they travel outside of caravan, so they're not going to be near the race itself. They'll be 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes back behind the race in the gap, and it will be clearly labeled chief course marshal, and they're not going to be going by at race speed. They're going to be going by at a moderate pace.
They will also be, as they're roving the course, they will also be looking for the volunteers wearing the volunteer t-shirts. So as they're delivering water, as they're trying to provide assistance to the volunteers, your t-shirt will help. But if you're in a real crowded area, they may have a harder time seeing that. So you have to do the little teapot if you need attention.
Okay, next slide. Yep. Dress like you know what's going on in Charleston. Charleston weather, it can change. It can be rainy, which we hope not. It could be hot, which we hope not. Weather so far looks really, really good for next week in terms of temperature, but make sure that you have food, water, bring a rain jacket, an umbrella. Umbrellas are good because it's not only for the rain, it's for the sun. Sunscreen. So make sure that you are well prepared for the post that you're assigned to. In many cases, you're going to be assigned to support a law enforcement post. They will know more about that post than we may assign to you initially, so just follow their direction. Watch for, especially downtown, and especially on summers where we know we're going to have large crowds. Be alert for people that are leaning over the barriers that'll be present. Just remind them that they need to be back away so that they don't hook or interfere with the race. Next slide. Every vehicle on the course will have a decal on the upper part of the windshield, both front and rear of the windshield. There'll be other decals that will indicate various sponsorships and support for the race. But these are a sample of all of the of some of the decals that you'll see on those vehicles. The ones that are important to you as a course marshal is the chief marshal decal, and that'll be on a large pickup truck, and they will be circulating out of the convoy. Next slide. It's like David Letterman's top 10 volunteer questions. How fast is each lap, and when will I see them next? For the criterium, I can tell you it's going to be about, for the elite men, probably 2 minutes, 8 seconds. For the women, it'll be 2 minutes 15, 2 minutes 20. And they'll be going around at about 28 to 30 miles an hour, with the finishing sprint probably in excess of 35, 38, 40 miles an hour. When will I see them next on the criterium? About every 2 minutes. The start finish is always going to be in front of the 4 Points Sheraton at 600 Canal East. How can I get into a hospitality tent? We'll address that one later. Where can I get an autograph? You can get an autograph at the start of any race or at the end of a race, but it's probably better to do it at the beginning of the race when they're not aggravated from a loss, or they're not worn out from the race itself. Cycling is a very open and supportive sport. The athletes are easy and approachable. That's one of the biggest things that's truly enjoyable about cycling, is it is such an open and enjoyable experience with the athletes. We'll go over when you can people cross the street. Where's a good place to see the race? Pretty much everywhere in Charleston is a really good place to see the race. There are some areas, if you want to see pain and suffering, Bridge Road is a great place to see pain and suffering. Same thing with Works. If you want to see things really, really fast, downtown is a really good place to see fast handling of a bike. What's going on and why are the roads closed? That's my favorite one. And you can certainly fill them in on the race and why the roads are closed and why it's important for rider safety and the importance of this race. But the police will be there to help direct them around the course. Next slide. Okay, before I kick this off, any precautions for the gap? Yeah, I got that. Netting or other safety barriers planned for down Loudon Heights. There will be barriers that will be placed basically all over the road course. We're not necessarily taping off driveways, but we will have a number of volunteers on both the descent of Loudon Heights as well as the descent of Oak Ridge to help with that. And we are doing individual outreach to those locations. Churches on Sunday downtown have been notified of the race and they have made accommodations to get people into and out of their churches. The easier part about the road race is that it is such a long circuit, 13.1 miles. It's going to take 30, 40 minutes for the race to come back around. That gives us an opportunity to allow people to get in to certain areas under police control. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Tim, and he's going to talk about shift schedules and a variety of other topics. So I'll stick around for other questions.
Thanks, Will. My name is Tim Tidwell. I work for Medalist Sports, and I will be the volunteer coordinator with a lot of help from the Charleston Convention and Visitors Bureau, specifically from RICO. We will be kind of tag teaming this, and our contact information is in this slide deck. And you will be able to interact with us via our cell phones, by texting. We're going to use an app that we're going to tell you about here in just a few minutes also for communications. But during the racing days, Rico and I are your primary contacts. For the shift schedule, I'm not going to belabor this. I will point out that on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we have one shift because those are relatively shorter days of racing. Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday are very full days, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. plus or minus. So we have two shifts. And if you signed up for Wednesday, Saturday, or Sunday, when you do your packet pickup, you will learn which shift you're working. And I'll cover a little bit more about that here in just a minute. Next slide. So what we would like for everybody to do to the maximum extent possible is come to our pre-check or packet pickup for all the volunteers, which is tomorrow at the Charleston Coliseum in the Grand Lobby. We're going to be open 2 different times tomorrow, from 10 to 2 and 5 to 7. And we would like for as many of you as possible to come check in and get your materials. We will also be handing out specific handouts that show you each day that you're working, the hours you're working, the specific location that you're working, like an address or a street corner. We've made those assignments. We will also have a map that I will be able to help orient you to those locations as needed to make sure you're comfortable with where you're going. And the handouts will also have parking instructions or suggestions for each day and each location. If you come to, the advantage of coming to the open house packet pickup tomorrow is you are totally checked in at that point. When you leave there, whichever days you're volunteering, you can go straight to your assigned location. You will not have to check in anywhere else on race day. If you're working on Bridge Road during the road race, if you're working at the far end of Canal during the time trial, if you're working on Lee Street at the Criterium on the backside, you do not have to check in. As long as you come to packet pickup, get your materials, you will go straight to your location on race day. We are also going to have a second chance packet pickup. If you're not able to make it tomorrow, I think it's on the next slide, actually. Yeah, starting at 9 a.m. Monday, we will have everything set up for packet pickup and for all the volunteer activities. Our volunteer headquarters throughout the entire week, starting Monday, is at Black Sheep Burrito at the corner of Summers and Quarrier. All day Monday, more or less from 9 to 5, Rico and I and others will be there for you to do packet pickup. So if you're not able to make it tomorrow, you will have another chance to come on Monday, hopefully. And again, our goal is to get as many of you checked in as possible where you do not have to check in anywhere else on race day. Next slide. So we'll cover the courses. I won't belabor these either. If you're not as familiar with how these races typically run from a spectator standpoint, or from kind of the areas that are kind of a beehive of activity, for the time trial, this is probably overall the one that will have the least amount of spectators in general. There will still be quite a few spectators, especially in the start finish area or for 2 or 3 blocks in either direction of that on Canal. There will probably be a handful of spectators in the other areas as well. But if your post is out away from the downtown area on Canal out toward one end or the other of the course, you are likely to see less spectators. But your job is still important because you're managing traffic vehicles. There's a lot of driveways on the course. There's a lot of cross streets on the course. And we have to make sure that the cars and everybody stays off of the course. And that's part of the job of the course marshal, is to help be the eyes and ears to help protect the integrity of the course all the way around the entire course. Next slide. The criterium, if you've never been to one or you're not as familiar, Will's analogy, I think, is spot on. I always refer to it as NASCAR on bikes. You've got plus or minus for the elite men's race, 100 men lined up at the start line. They start as a group in a pack, and they race around this very short course at very high speeds. Almost all of the course will have fencing around it at the edge of the sidewalk to prevent the spectators or anybody else from getting into the road. There will be crosswalks, however. There will be various places around the course where some of our course marshals, and we'll educate you when you come to packet pickup if you're at one of those locations, but you will actually help manage pedestrian traffic between laps. We will let people cross the course as long as the race is not coming through. But in most cases, there will be volunteers there that are almost acting as a human gate on both sides of the road. And you close the gate when the race is coming through, and you open the gate and let the spectators cross when it's safe to do so. This probably will be the most spectator heavy event of the weekend. And I would say in this case, almost the entire course, I think, will be heavily trafficked with spectators. Okay, next slide. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. And this will cover the entire road race, whether you're working depending on which shift, whether you're working the junior race or the elite races or both. The downtown area of the road race will be very heavily attended with spectators, similar to the criterium, especially around the start finish area, but pretty much all the way around the downtown area. Typically, the other areas that are very popular with spectators are the climbs. And in this case, I would think Bridge Road in particular will be an area that has a lot of spectator activity, especially up about midway up the climb where you've got a lot of retail businesses, a lot of restaurants. That will be a very busy area. Wirtz Road, I would think, would be somewhat spectator friendly, maybe not as much as Bridge Road. But again, you're going to have, how far is the course?
13.1.
13.1 miles. So you're going to have spectators all over to various degrees, but I would expect those to be the areas where they're concentrated around that 13 miles. All right, next slide. Okay, these are the suggestions of things that we recommend that you bring. You will be at the packet pickup. You will be provided a volunteer t-shirt and a whistle. We do want you to wear the t-shirt every time you're working and bring the whistle. The purpose of the whistle is when the race is approaching you, regardless of, really not as much in the time trial, but in the criterium and in the road race. When the race is approaching your station, you want to blow the whistle to let the people at the next station know that the race is coming, because especially in the road races, they're going up Bridge Road or down Loudon Heights. There's a lot of times when there's a course marshal or spectators that don't know the race is approaching. The whistles are the indicator, and you guys are the entire, every course marshal around the entire course will have a whistle. And the purpose of that is to be an early alarm system, basically, to alert everybody that, hey, the race is coming. Please bring some water and some snacks. We will be providing additional water, bottled water throughout the days. Umbrella, rain gear. We have also found an umbrella can be very handy on a sunny day, even if it's warm, to keep the sun off of you. Certainly comfortable shoes. You will be on your feet quite a bit. The criterium and the time trial, you will pretty much be on your feet almost the entire time. The road race is a little less intense because with the distance of each lap, when the caravan goes through, it'll be another 25 or 30 minutes before they come through again. So you'll have some downtime in between laps, not as much so for the time trial and the criterium. Hats, sunscreen, lawn chairs, and we mentioned that especially for the time trial and the road. There is also a volunteer handbook that has not been distributed yet. It will be emailed to everybody as a follow-up to this training, and it is about 12 to 15 pages long that covers a lot of what was in this slide deck tonight and a lot of the verbal material we're providing. But all of this and the checklist of what to bring and a lot of that is also in the handbook. So next slide. So we talked earlier about if you come to early packet pickup, you do not have to check in physically anywhere on race day. You can go straight to your work location. We are going to use the Remind app, and we will help tutor you on this a little bit at packet pickup as well. But we will use this for you to be able to check in from your location just using your phone. Each of the locations will have a number, and we'll go through that at packet pickup. And what you can do is when you get to your location, whether it be for the time trial or the criterium or the road race, you will simply send a text to the Remind app, either with your name and or your marshal location number, and say that you are in position. And that way Rico and I will be monitoring that on race day, and we will know without you having come or without us being out on the course, we'll know who's there and maybe who's not. Next slide. The Remind app is actually something we adopted. I've actually worked as a volunteer coordinator for the last 6 years for Pro Nationals in Knoxville. The last 2 years, we've used the Remind app. Typically, it's used by teachers for announcements to groups. The beauty of this is when you check in and you say your name or your location number and you've checked in, the only people that see that are me and Rico, as if we're the teacher. So it's not a group text. It's not a group chat. So everybody doesn't have to see it. It just comes in one-to-one. The other thing is we can also text out to everybody at one time to let you know if we're running into an inclement weather situation, to let you know if we've got lunches or meals out for water out for delivery, to let you know, especially on the road race, that it's the final lap. So it's basically just a two-way communication device. If we go to the next slide. Yeah, when you sign in for this, you will enter your name and your birthday to prove you're over 13. And it's going to seem a little weird, but respond that you're a student, because this is built for students and teachers. But just pretend like you're a student. Rico and I are the teachers. And go to the next slide. We'll have this tomorrow at packet pickup, but for each day, and even on the days where we have multiple shifts, for each shift, there will be a unique check-in for Remind. So you will need to sign up for however many shifts you're working. You may have to sign up multiple times, but this allows us to manage each shift individually. If you want to, go ahead and take a picture of this now while it's up on the screen, a screenshot or a picture with your phone. And again, we will also be emailing this information out, and we will have it at packet pickup to help you get set up on the app. Okay. There is the contact information for Rico and myself. These are our cell phone numbers. We are accustomed to dealing with, if you need to text us or if you need to communicate with us, our emails are on there as well. We will be looking at both emails and texts. One thing that I did not cover earlier on when I mentioned the volunteer headquarters, depending on which day you're working, we are going to, every day you're working, we are providing meals. Thanks. On Tuesday, because we have one shift and it's in the afternoon and it's pretty manageable, it's actually bridging. It starts at 11 o'clock in the morning and goes till mid-afternoon. We're going to bring box lunches to you at your spot on Tuesday only. The other days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to have buffet meals available at volunteer headquarters. On Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, the hours of that meal will be from 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Depending on whether you're working in the morning or afternoon, that should allow you to come either after your shift if you work in the morning, or before your shift if you're working in the afternoon, and get a meal before or after your shift. On Thursday and Friday for the Criterium, the meal hours are 3:30 to 5. So you would come before your shift, get your meal, and then go out to your spot. The meals are not mandatory. They're there for your convenience. We hope you'll take advantage of it. We definitely want to show off the great food at Black Sheep. They're one of our major sponsors, and we want to help drive some traffic to their restaurant. But the meals are not mandatory. If you're checked in and you don't want a meal, you can go straight to your location. That's perfectly fine. I think that may be about it.
All right. Again, let me just reiterate how important it is. This race would not be successful if it were not for your help. It is an enormous amount of confidence that we have, knowing that we have such a large group of volunteers out on course helping us maintain that safety. So again, on behalf of USA Cycling, on behalf of Medalist Sports, and on behalf of the race itself, I just say thank you all very, very, very much for the work that you're about to do. Again, it's important that you have a good and enjoyable time. Where you're going to be in the proverbial catbird seat on course, you'll have the best spot to see it in a lot of places. So again, thank you all so much. If there are questions, if you want to type your questions in the chat, we will answer those. But if not, then we will see you at check-in and we will see you on course. We'll stay on here for a few more minutes if you have a question. Tick tock. Can you put up the volunteer schedule again?
Oh, the shift schedule. I think it's the slide right before that one. No, go to the
other way.
No, yeah. The one that's just the volunteers. Yeah.
On Remind App, what's the title of the conversation to join?
I do not know.
We'll get that to you for check-in.
Did you see that, Rico?
On the Remind App, what is the title of the conversation to join?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Stand by. If we're willing to work additional shifts than the ones can you add? Yes, absolutely. Yes, please.
Please.
It is Pro Road Nationals CWV.
That's the conversation on the Remind app. Pro Road Nationals CWV.
It's a pretty catchy name. If your availability has changed from what we listed, yeah, just let Tim and Rico know. And
we'll address that at packet pickup. We'll adjust to whatever your schedule needs.
And the recording of this meeting will be available afterwards. There is a test later on, so we hope you'll pass. I'm planning to do Bridge Road Race. How should I manage volunteer shift that day? Oh, you're going to do there we
okay.
go.
Okay.
Yeah. All
Uh,
right.
Tony, assuming that you can come to packet pickup, just remind me of that and we'll work that out. That should not be an issue. We'll make sure it's not an issue for you.
And we hope you have a great race up the hill.
Yeah. And yes, we are recording the meeting and plan to make that available to everybody via email.
Last place, no, I doubt that. All right. Any other questions that we can help you with now? And remember, we'll be able to answer everything in person. Here we go. Also, I have a friend who wants to volunteer. Yes.
Absolutely.
Bring friends.
The
If you want to just advertise it on your way there, say, hey, I'm going to packet pickup. Why don't y'all come along at lunch?
Yeah, and specifically, we still need a number of volunteers for Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, especially Saturday and Sunday.
All right. Going once, going twice.
Wait, I have a question. This is Paula Bickham. So if we have friends, like I thought I would let my book club know about this. So they should come on Friday to packet pickup if they want to be a part of the volunteer group.
Absolutely.
Ma'am.
Yes, and
Okay.
we can sign them up at packet pickup.
All right, Tay, that sounds fantastic. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, thanks for spreading the word.
Yeah,
We
thank
Okay,
need,
you.
you're
we need
really
as many
welcome.
volunteers as we can get.
Okay, I'll let everybody know that I know.
Thank you,
Thank you
Paula.
so much. You're welcome. We'll see you Friday.
Yes, ma'am. All right. All right. Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and we will see y'all at packet pickup.
Thank you. I didn't have to speak.